Hello and welcome to Women in Retail Talks. I'm Christina Stidham, Digital Content Director at Women in Retail Leadership Circle. Today I'm joined by Terry Johnson, founder of the Harlem Candle Company, a luxury home fragrance brand specializing in scented candles inspired by the richness of Harlem. In this episode, we're discussing the inspiration and storytelling behind each of the brand's candles, the company's recent feature on Facebook and Instagram's Buy Black Shop collections during Black History Month, Terry's goals for this upcoming year, and much more. So thanks for joining me today, Terry.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. So first, I want the audience to know that these are not your average candles. So can you tell us all about the Harlem Candle Company products and how there's a story behind each scent?
Absolutely. So the Harlem Candle Company is all inspired by the Harlem Renaissance. And so we've used people like Langston Hughes and his creative space, or Josephine Baker and the idea of how her boudoir smelled. And we use that as inspiration for the fragrances. Yeah, so the idea is really to try to recreate the essence of these people and these places and to transport you through fragrance, and transport you through place and time, through the Harlem Renaissance. And we have a candle called Speakeasy, which has some beautiful Palo Santo and some notes of bourbon and some dark chocolate that is just very sensual and a little mysterious. And it really just kind of makes you think, takes you back into a speakeasy where it's a little kind of dark and that underworld and that fun, kind of exciting stuff that used to happen. And then the candle inspired by Langston Hughes, we knew that he was a big smoker. And so we put some tobacco notes in there. And he also loved incense. He would spend time in these really small candlelit churches in Mexico, and he loved the incense burning. So we decided to put incense notes in there. And we also knew that Langston Hughes, he did so much of his work really late at night. And so we wanted to create sort of an after dark scent. And so we think about, ooh, this candle is inspired by Langston Hughes. This is the candle for creatives, for people who are writers and who are artists. And so we'd love to just tell stories around each of the products. And we hope that they resonate with people. And it's just a lot of fun to do it. My background is in storytelling and in creating content. And this is just kind of a natural fit for me.
Yeah, and I love that. So you're kind of like emoting this whole personality out of these candles, fragrances that you put a lot of research behind. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, what you just mentioned is that your background is in creating content. I want to talk about when you started the company. You launched the brand in 2014 after years of working as a travel and lifestyle expert and content creator. So how did all of your experiences in that role, traveling the world and creating content, lead you into the Harlem Candle Company of creating these luxury candles?
Well, it really starts with me just being absolutely obsessed with beautiful fragrances. And so this started when I was a child. I loved perfumes and colognes. I would experiment and make my own perfume in the bathroom when I was a kid. I have an aunt who had an insane collection of perfume. She used to live in Saudi Arabia, with her husband and my cousins. And when she came back from Saudi Arabia and her travels throughout the Middle East and throughout Europe, she just had an incredible collection of perfumes. And so I would just, when we would go and visit, I would just put all the perfumes on and want to hear the stories behind each of the scents. And so I've just had this kind of a obsession, and I was a huge consumer of luxury candles. So me traveling and creating content, it really is just sort of a natural extension. So I would go to, different countries, and I mean, I've been to 69 countries, doing storytelling and doing projects for BET, the Travel Channel, Huffington Post, and creating a lot of branded content. But there was nothing like coming back home, coming back to New York City, coming back to the neighborhood of Harlem, that just made me so excited. There was no place like home. And when I realized that, I could make candles, I can make some scented candles. One, I had become friends with a perfumer, and this perfumer had made fragrance oils for different candle brands. And he said, Terry, I'll give you some fragrance oils. You should definitely experiment. I think you'd be so good at this. So I made some candles in my kitchen. I made about 50 and I gifted them to friends and family. And while I was creating the candles in the kitchen, I was thinking, okay, well, what story am I going to tell with this candle? It can't just be a candle. It has to be a inspired candle. So I had a lot of fun coming up with the story for each one based on the person I was gifting it to. And then I came up with, it was craft packaging, craft paper, nothing too special, but and ribbons, and it wrote a little note, and I really loved it. And I felt like, if people like this, I might really want to consider turning this into a business. And that's what happened. People loved it. And I just kind of felt like it was the best thing for me to be doing. At the time, I was a little, how do I put this? A little tired of sort of waiting on these cool projects to happen. Me working, creating content, it was kind of hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. Oh, we didn't get this approved, and it just, it wasn't lucrative enough for me. It just wasn't. And I really wanted to create something a brand. I wanted to create something, sort of that could exist well beyond just me standing in front of a video camera and being recorded, or content that people are consuming. I wanted something more. And I felt like the timing was right for me to just kind of step into, true entrepreneurship, and create products that I hope people like. And it worked.
Yeah, that's a great story. And I think a lot of our listeners and community that have this entrepreneurial push, this the desire to create their own brand probably really resonates with that story, feels the same way. So, you have this idea, you have these first couple batches of candles in your kitchen, and then you decide you're going to go for it and create a company out of this. So, how did you overcome any obstacles that you may have faced while building the business?
Well, so a lot of people who are just now learning about the Harlem Candle Company, for them it looks like, oh, this just came out of the blue. Well, they have no idea what it started, how it started. They looked very different. The products were, um, they looked very handcrafted. Um, but I started, and I was making all of the candles in my kitchen. Still have wax all over. I still have wax in places I can't get to. Um, but I was I was making these candles, packaging them, and then putting them in a suitcase. And I literally, Christina, had a backpack full of candles, the biggest suitcase I could find with candles, a big huge duffel bag on another arm, and I would go to pop-ups, lugging this stuff. By the time I'm getting there, I'm sweating because it's hard and it's heavy, and setting up my table and trying to make everything look so luxurious and pretty. Meanwhile, my back is in so much pain. And I'm, just getting the brand out there, and people loved it. And people loved, and this was well before I have the new, packaging. This was still when they were in the craft boxes with ribbons and and labels, and that I printed on my printer. This was, but people saw the potential. And it wasn't until I met, who's now my fragrance agent. He saw what I was doing and said, I can help you. I think what you're doing is amazing. I can help you. And so he helped me find a manufacturing company. And so I've partnered with them. He helped me find, um, the perfumer. So I now work, pretty exclusively with one fragrance house, and I have some of their best perfumers working on the fragrances. And that's really what was a game changer for me. So I finally was able to get out of my kitchen. Every now and then, though, I still have to go back in there. When we are super low in stock of the travel candles, I can still make those in my kitchen. But that was a game changer. But as far as obstacles, I mean, oh goodness, um, there were so many along the way. I kind of don't even want to think about them. I just want to keep going forward. But there were, just it was hard. It's hard. It's not like, I have a lot of friends who have jewelry brands who I've met at doing pop-ups. I've done hundreds, Christina, hundreds of pop-ups. I don't even know how many. Um, and imagine lugging heavy, heavy, heavy candles to hundreds of pop-ups around the city, between New York City, between Brooklyn, every now and then Jersey. And it's hard, it's heavy. And sometimes you're taking these Ubers, and wow, that's an $80 Uber. Um, am I going to sell $160 worth of candles? We don't know. This is this is an experiment. This is who's going to show up
Right.
at the pop-up. Was it marketed well? And so there would be some times where, maybe I broke even. But then it really just I didn't have a choice but to get it out there in that way, and to sort of get recognized by, you just never know who's going to walk up to you and be that person who might be a journalist, or whose roommate might be a journalist who thinks this is cool. And that's really how it happened. And so all the hard work that I put in doing all those pop-ups and not being profitable for many years was worth it.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, truly you bootstrapped it, from your kitchen to these pop-ups, and then each candle by candle, word of mouth grew, and eventually you partnered with the manufacturer. All of that came together and to be where you are today.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. So yeah, fast forwarding to today, and talking about everything that we've dealt with in the past year. We've all been dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, which has just dealt another blow to retailers, and been another huge challenge to everybody across the board. But I'm wondering if you have seen a change in your customers in the past year. Is there more is there more interest in high quality candles? All this time that people are spending at home, they're kind of reinvesting in things that they're interacting with every day in their home. At least for me, I know that I'm burning a lot more candles than usual. So I just want to know what changes you've seen to your business, to your customers during COVID-19 to now.
Yeah, so I love this question. We realized pretty early, when I say early, let's say beginning of April, that, oh wow, everything is shutting down. Everything is shutting down in New York. Everything is shut down. It's shutting down across the country. And so we started to do Facebook and Instagram advertising pretty early. And the campaigns that we came up with were, work from home campaign, or make your home a haven. And so we created those campaigns that we thought would really resonate with people who are now spending so much more time at home and working from home. And we saw that it was working. We were reaching um, customers that we had never reached before. And I have an incredible digital marketing team who is just really good at testing and optimizing. And so, yeah, we have reached customers all across the country from all backgrounds, who are now have become loyal customers because they found a product that they had never smelled before, but they were intrigued and curious enough. And one thing that we really try to do is, if you read the descriptions of each of the candles, we try to really tell a beautiful story and make people understand sort of what to feel, and how, describing the fragrance notes and how they sort of play into either the person or the place. And then, of course, we have a lot of reviews. We really encourage our customers to write reviews, because that's going to help another, potential customer say, "Ooh, you know what? That resonated with me. I like that. That works." So we tried early on, or we succeeded early on in sort of marketing online, and that was great. We have seen, a huge increase in business because people are spending a lot more time at home, burning candles a lot more at home, and it's been great because we've also been able to engage really well with them. I do a series called Tuesdays with Terry on Instagram Live every other Tuesday, and people really love it because I'll just, be in my living room like, hey, I tell everyone to get a glass of wine. I get a cocktail, and we're just going to hang out. And sometimes I'll have special guests, and we'll talk about entrepreneurship, or we'll talk about, you know, the process of how another person started their brand. And we talk about all sorts of stuff that is just interesting and fun and intriguing. I've even taught people how to make candles in their kitchen. And so we just really tried to engage with people, since we were spending so much more time at home. And I think that has really, really worked. People got to know me, they got to know the brand, they got to know the inspiration behind the brand. And they even hear about the trials and tribulations of, like, the pallets being lost. Like, how do you lose a pallet? I don't know, but sometimes it's just a free flowing kind of conversation, and it's great because I think a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or who are thinking about starting their own business, they tune in and they ask great questions, and it's just really fun. So I really just figured out that I think it is so important to engage with people, especially when people are, sometimes maybe lonely or just kind of missing that connection and missing that connectedness that they typically have. And I really love doing it. It makes me really happy it actually really makes me happy because I get to get dressed up and put some makeup on and put a nice dress on and talk to my friends.
Yeah, we're not doing that so much anymore.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think that's true of a lot of brands. Is this time has definitely allowed people to really connect on those digital channels and build more of a community. And I should have asked this before, but when did you make that jump to e-commerce? Like, were you already on e-commerce selling online before COVID?
Oh yeah, we're mostly an e-commerce brand, and that's how I
Okay.
always wanted it to be. Um, One, because we produce everything here. And so, from our boxes to everything's done glass, everything's done here in the United States. So our cost of goods is kind of high, and we don't have the economies of scale. We don't have that ability to only be wholesale or to be mostly wholesale. Not at all, not even close. So a direct to consumer model was really the only way for it to make sense to even have this brand and run this business the way that it is now. So, and I like everything being made here. I mean, the Harlem Candle Company, it's an American brand. It's Harlem, it's New York, it's American. So it's been extremely important for me that everything is done here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I'm sure that was even helpful during COVID too. I know a lot of people had
Oh
issues getting
goodness,
goods
yes.
from overseas.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It really, it was incredible because now, even though, our glass manufacturer or our glass printer was maybe shut down a little bit, it wasn't it- once they were able to even just have a limited crew, they were at least able to go back and do the coloring of the glass. And but yeah, it didn't affect us in major ways like companies that really do depend on overseas production.
Yeah. So speaking of production, I want to go back to talking about the products themselves. I was looking at your e-commerce site. I love the cocktail glass collection. I think they're so elegant. It's a great idea to keep using the glass after the candle's done for your cocktails. So, and every scent that you have has such a rich story and really, really beautiful designs. So what is that process like when you're creating new fragrance collections for the scent and the look of the packaging?
Yeah, oh, thank you so much. The cocktail collection is it's so much fun to do because the glasses we're using, they are actually a whiskey tumbler. So they have that thick base. And so if you look at the glass prior to any decoration on the glass or any coloring on the glass, it's like a whiskey glass. And when I would look at it and I'm like, there must be life after this candle glass. Yeah, of course you can clean out the wax and use it to hold your makeup brushes and pens and pencils, and you can and use it as a planter. But why not use this beautiful glass that has this nice Art Deco design or quotes by James Baldwin? Why not use it as a cocktail glass or a drinking glass? So, and it's also just when it comes for sustainability, which is huge right now, which is so important. Why not? So yeah, and it's just and it's 22 karat gold we use, which you can stick in the dishwasher. It is, it's a beautiful design, and every single time you look at it, you can be reminded. So one of the ones I love the most is called it's our love candle inspired by James Baldwin's garden. And it has a quote by James Baldwin that says, "Love brought you here," which is a quote from his book, If Beale Street Could Talk. We actually did this candle for the film. We Annapurna Pictures, the production company behind this project, reached out to us and just said, "We want to partner with you on this on a candle." And it was
Wow.
such a joy because yeah, because I don't have the rights to just put a James Baldwin quote on glass. Um, you know, I probably could get them if I, went through but they worked all of that out. They're like, "Don't even worry about it. We're working with the estate, blah, blah, blah. You're good." I'm like, yay. And so I used his garden when he lived in St. Paul de Vence in France, which is where he spent the last 17 years of his life. I used his garden as inspiration for the fragrance because he spent so much time in his garden writing. So But every single, and that glass has beautiful, vintage roses wrapped around the glass with the quote. So every single time I look at that glass when I drink, I use the glasses a lot for my green drinks, my juices. Every time I look at it with my green drink, and I'm just like, oh God, this is so good. Thank you. Love brought you here. And it's just a nice reminder. And so I encourage people, to use that cocktail glass, or use use the glass of the candle after. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's just a lot of fun. But when it comes to coming up with the fragrance, um, it's a process. It is a process. We are launching our Lady Day candle, and this one is inspired by the gardenia flower that Billie Holiday wore in her hair. We've been working on this fragrance for almost 2 years, because we wanted it just right, and we wanted the hot throw to be as powerful as the cold throw, and we wanted to kind of just weave in different elements of what we think Billie Holiday would love. You've just spent quite a bit of time, and it's not just me, it's the perfumer, and the evaluation team, to really just feel like we got it right, because we're honoring these people's legacy. We're honoring who they are, who they were as artists and as writers and musicians. And you want to be very delicate and be very intentional when you're doing it. So if I don't feel like, I don't know. If I don't feel like it's right, it's not right. And it's cool because I get to make the decisions. But because when I know it's right, it's a hit. It is a hit. And people are just like, how did you do this? I'm like, I don't, it's not just me. I'm getting ideas from Josephine Baker. I'm getting ideas from like they are in the, I feel like they are very much in this creative process.
Yeah, and people can pick up on how much creativity really went into it too. I mean, it sounds like so much behind each iteration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
And I know you were just featured on Facebook and Instagram, actually for Black History Month, which was celebrated. We just wrapped up in February for the hashtag Buy Black Shop collections. And I want to know, what was that experience like? Did they approach you about being featured? And why is it important that these social platforms spotlight Black small businesses?
Yeah, so I've applied for all sorts of grants, and I think I probably got on the list like, oh, the Harlem Candle Company keeps applying for a Facebook grant. So, um, so so they know about the brand. I, do have, a pretty good ad account. I'm spending a lot of money with Facebook and Instagram doing ads, and I work with a Facebook marketer every single week. We have a ongoing call with a Facebook marketing expert who helps us, and so I think that's probably how I even got invited to be a part of this. And yeah, it's been incredible. I know that we've gotten a lot more sales, a lot more momentum as a result of being involved in the Buy Black campaign, and just to be promoted, is is great. They've been so supportive of the brand, and we there's no way we could reach the number of people in the way that we reach them if it wasn't for Facebook and Instagram. We see comments. I just saw your ad on Facebook. I'm so happy to know about your company. James Baldwin is my favorite writer. Just it'll be little things like that, and it's kind of great to just know that these platforms exist to be able to help us connect to our to the customers who can end up becoming our best customers, and people who just love the brand so much, and they're happy, we're happy, and it's just all love.
Yeah, I love that. So it was a really positive experience overall, and hopefully that momentum will continue forward now that all these people have found you guys through that feature.
Absolutely.
So speaking of moving forward, for my last question, I'm wondering what goals you have for 2021, even looking forward into 2022, what you see going on for the future for yourself personally and also at the Harlem Candle Company.
Yeah, so Expanding the team. This has been on my list of things that I need to do for a while, but expanding the team because we have experienced pretty significant growth in sales, but then that also means, you know, growth in uh, demand in stores. And we're in Bloomingdale's, we're in Macy's, we're going to launch a Nordstrom later this year, and so that takes a lot of work, as you know.
Yeah, that's huge.
In addition to continuing to, thrive in our direct to consumer business, and then we do a lot of corporate gifting, which I love that so much. We'll get an email or a phone call. Hi, we'd like to send 100 candles to 100 different people in 100 different places. Can you help us? And we love that. We specialize in that. We're like, yep, here's the bulk order form. What custom message would you like with each person? We can handwrite that. Like, we love that because it's such a, we make gifting easy. And that's really important for our business now, especially because people cannot see people in person like they used to. And so when a candle shows up at your door with a beautiful message from either someone you work with or someone that you haven't seen in a long time, or maybe you're having a hard time and that candle shows up at your door, I love the response and kind of just knowing how people get introduced to the brand. And so between the corporate gifting and all of the people just gifting candles, just so many different people across the country, really across the world, it's such a good position to be in right now, to be able to bring a little bit of comfort and joy and peace into people's homes during this time.
Definitely. And it looks like you have a lot to look forward to, and sounds like you have a lot of growth ahead. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed talking with you on Women in Retail Talks, and best of luck.
Thank you so much, Christine. I love this interview.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at womeninretail.com/podcast for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.